Morning, guys. Happy Thursday. It's another very Florida fall day here. Got my longer tights on today, a little chill in the air. So we're going to continue on with some of our basic stretches, trying to give you guys some of the fundamental tools and the building blocks behind why we do certain things, how to do them, and then these are just those quick little videos you can look back on as reminders of form and how it's supposed to feel and why it's supposed to feel a certain way. It's all about alignment of the body. If you cock a hip a little bit out, right, instead of plugging it back or having it in alignment, you're going to not feel the stretch as intensely, or maybe not even where it's supposed to be or where we're generating the energy from. So yesterday we did a few seated stretches. Today we're going to do a little bit more of some moving stretches, as well as a nice opener for the front of the thigh, because we didn't get into that yesterday at all. So we're going to start with a nice half split series is called, or a low lunge, and then leaning forward and back through the stretch. So you want to have your 2 blocks, of course, and you want to have your strap just in case you never know when you might need it, right? And then we're going to bring our foot, whichever leg we decide to start with, forward between the 2 blocks. Now remember, your blocks bring the floor closer to you. They are props of your arms, right? So some of you may be here, and that's great. You have mobility in the hips, you have that stretch in the hamstrings and spine. Some of you may be right here, splitting that foot with your 2 blocks, okay? Either positioning of the blocks and the body all just depends on our anatomical makeup, right? I like to keep my back toe tucked under. I feel like it gives me a rudder of sorts for balance. And then notice that when I'm forward in my lunge, my knee is still directly over my ankle. That alignment is very important. We don't want to get into this kind of action that's bad on the ankle, real bad on the knee. So again, you want to always have joints and angles lined up perfectly. You see that I'm in an angle right here. I'm not upright like so. So we want to bring the hip energy forward while still keeping the knee in line. And then we want to lift the chest, okay? This is the beginning series. You're going to feel the stretch on the back leg, psoas, and front of thigh. So when you come forward, bent knee, you're going to feel the back leg. Now, when we take this into what's called the half split series, we're going to straighten the front leg as we send our hips back. Now, your blocks, once again, extensions of your arms, right? They can go anywhere. Maybe when we go back, we need more. Maybe we can bow forward a little bit over the leg, or maybe we're just staying in a nice straight spine and we're just going to hinge forward and back. So the hinging is where we start to build some energy and heat into the muscle fiber. That's what we like. And then we can hold for a moment to get a little more of that isometric stretch, that space in the muscle fiber. And then again, as you go back to half split, you want to keep that femur plugging back. You want to keep your front ankle flexed, big toe towards the sky. That's going to stretch all the way down into the Achilles, the calf, and even those attachments behind the knee. And again, remember where I said don't cock a hip out. So if you see it from the front and you're like this, and you're bent and you're all sideways, this is not working, right? So we've got to plug the hip back. You'll hear me say plug back a lot. You want to line up your hips, okay? Very important. Be in a mirror if you need to in order to see this, so that when we come front, our hips are lined up, shoulders lined up, knee over ankle. When we go back, we're going to have a tendency to pop out of that stretch. We got to plug that femur back into the hip socket and then flex over the leg. That's flexion with the spine rounding. So extension comes forward, right? I'm doing it from all the different angles so you can see it. The exhale takes you back. I always like breath movement. Okay, guys, super important. Remember what you do on one leg, you're going to do on the other leg. Always keeping mindful that one side's going to feel different than the other. So you may be on one side blocks this way, one here. It does not matter. Same thing, you come forward. Maybe for the first round, you hold a few breaths in each position, making sure you're lining up your energy, you're keeping that breath movement, and then maybe staying in it isometrically or statically holding so that you can get into some of the deeper muscle fibers, into the belly of the muscle. Sometimes we stretch not long enough and we go only superficially instead of getting into some of that really deep tightness that's going to gather in the body. Now, a really great transitional stretch for half split series is pyramid pose variations. Same thing with the foot, that's why it's perfect. We're gonna come in a runner's lunge this time, okay? So this is like a low lunge where we drop our knee down. And then we're gonna lift the back leg up. That's how we line ourselves up. Once again, we can have our blocks on any level that gives us the alignment we're looking for and the strength to hold the posture. So we're gonna inhale and kind of almost look up. That same extension of spine we did when the knee was dropped, right? Same thing here, but now we're here. And then we're gonna exhale, straightening the front leg, and once again, plugging that femur back so that our hips are in alignment, and then we can round over the front leg. Now, lots of variations here. We can flex the front ankle, right? That's gonna get way more low calf Achilles attachments in the back of the knee, little less hamstring, or keep the toe ball mound down on the floor, right? Grounded, still plugging back, sacrum nice and square, but now I'm gonna get a little more belly, hamstring, and maybe even tibialis, that side edge of shin, for any of you that have ever had shin splints. Once again, what you do on one side, you do on the other. We line up with our blocks first. We come off our back knee. We've got that knee-ankle alignment. You can go a little shorter on your stance if this feels too aggressive anywhere. Just shorten up that stance a little bit. Blocks can be nice and high. We inhale to look up, still knee over ankle alignment. We exhale to send the hips back and to bring the forehead closer to the shin and the knee. Now, once again, we can lower those blocks or we can get rid of them altogether if the body is limber enough to sustain the foundation of the posture. We never want to torque a hip out, right? Same thing, we did it from the front so you could see it. You don't want to be like this or this because you've come out of your stretch. You need to line everything up in its entirety, knees, ankles, hips, and shoulders. That's pyramid pose right there. So again, we did a low lunge down on the knee. It's that same forward and back, hinging from the hips and the waist. And then we came off the back knee into that low lunge, runner's lunge, and we took that into pyramid pose. So same stretch, just a little bit more of an advancement, bringing that up a level. Now we're gonna do a supine or a laying down quadricep stretch, which for some people is a little easier than doing it standing. So you're gonna lower yourself down onto your belly, and you're gonna kind of rest on your forearms, right? Now you wanna keep your stomach pulling up and in away from the mat, because if you let it just drop out, it puts a lot of pressure on that lumbar. And then what you're gonna do is kick a heel towards the glute while you're kind of pressing yourself up out of those forearms, and you're gonna reach back for your ankle. Okay, now, easier said than done. Some of you are like, hey, Chris, not happening, right? So then you can grab a strap. You can lasso that strap around the ankle. Okay, a little more awkward to get into it, right? But you can still get there. And then you can work on pulling the heel toward the glute. Now, keep the ankle flex. That protects the knee. Or maybe you use the strap in order to finally then capture the ankle. So what we want to do is let our forearms support us underneath, keep the thigh grounded, bend the elbow. Now you can hold on to any side of the foot that makes sense to your wrist and your shoulder. It's not about that. And then you want to be able, I like this outside ankle. Then you're going to flex the ankle hard and pull the heel closer to the booty. Now as you do that, I want you to think about pushing your pubic bone or your pelvic girdle forward into the floor. By pushing the pelvis forward, it's going to put us in that facet lock we do when we're standing, and it's gonna really traction the front edge of that thigh. So once again, we're on our belly. We lift up on our forearm, keeping the stomach engaged. We kick a heel to glute and we reach for it. Now some of you may just barely get your heel. Start there, that's enough. Then just push your pelvis down and maybe just a couple pulls as you start to get that heel or ankle or shin or strap around the foot, right? To be able to pull and get some traction in the front of that quadricep, that front of thigh. Okay, you can hold isometrically 30 seconds to a minute. You can do some little movements, I call it traction stretching, where we're lengthening the front line of those fibers, but getting some movement and some compression in the knee joint as well. And you release that out. Maybe that's where you press yourself up and back. As a release for the lower back from laying on the stomach, come into a child's pose for a few breaths. Maybe wiggle the tail side to side, but always being conscious of the low back, the sensations we're having. Always keep the stomach in, even when we're stretching, unless we're like hanging out in final shavasana or something on the mat. So that's 3 more stretches you got today, 2 of which are kind of a basic version and a greater enhancement for the hamstrings. Kind of into the IT band, which we need to start to stretch for sure, and getting knee mobility. And then that frontline quadricep stretch, which is gonna get the big muscle of the front of the thigh. Laying down. Now remember, we've talked about you can do it standing, right? So, but this is really important for balance. So you can hold on to something, but all the while the pelvis stays neutral. You're able to flex the ankle to protect the knee, and you stand really tall. It's the same position I was just doing on the floor, but now I'm standing. Lots of options, shake, shimmy, get loosened up. You guys, those are the basics of some more stretches, the building blocks, as I said, the fundamental reason why we do it and what we're doing, so that we don't get injured, so that we get stretched what we're trying to get stretched, and we get some of that tension and stuck energy out of the body. You guys, that's me for the week. I will be back next week, and I'm actually going to start doing a little more exercising, if you will, putting some routines together for you guys so that you can take all these little fundamental pieces and then start actually putting them into a routine for yourself with reps and all the good stuff. So you guys have a great weekend. I'm Chris. Love you all. Talk to you real soon.